I mean, I grew up, and probably you did too, in the pre-computer age. So I'm
Yes.
actually
Yes.
used to handwriting. I started off handwriting my stories in a notebook.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that still helps me with the thinking process. And I have this one character in this new story, and I knew he played a significant role, but I couldn't. Is it this role or is it this role? And I finally just sat down and started scribbling out notes about him, and now I know what his role in the story is.
Yeah.
But I had to actually write it out for me to figure that out. So for other little younger writers out there too, don't be afraid to carry around a notebook or a journal and jot those ideas down in there. If don't try to wait until you get in front of a computer. I think a lot of people make that mistake, because you could be 2 hours from getting into the front of the computer, and by then it's gone. So don't be afraid to write it out.
And then lastly, about your third book, and was it always going to be a trilogy?
It's actually turned into 4 books. It was
Okay.
originally supposed to be a trilogy. The Gateway is the third book.
Right.
And those are my 2 magical creatures here. Here's the good creature, and then of course here's Giselle over here. And this picks up where the Convergence leaves off, and the Gateway is the magical realm. So all the characters end up on the Gateway, whether they've been taken hostage by Giselle or through some other means. The 3 boys end up on the Gateway, and then Cassia is the guardian of the secret keepers, and of course she's there trying to save them from being from Giselle. And so there's a battle that happens in this book on the Gateway. So you've got a lot of magic. You've got a lot more magic in this book than in the Convergence. And then the Lost Guardian, which you can see this one says not for resale on here, because this was my proof copy that I sent. It just came out yesterday. I just got the notice from Amazon. So I haven't gotten my actual copy here, which the cover is a little bit different than this one. But I don't know if you can see, this one's a little darker and the bars across here. But this is Cassia, and she's lost in the pool, which is on the magic realm. And in this one, it's kind of a reverse. The 3 boys have to go and save her because she has gotten herself into trouble. That's why she's lost. And it's this one, you've kind of got the boys doing most of the heavy lifting in this one, instead of the magical creatures doing the magic lifting. It's the boys. So, and that kind of finishes up the series. So it was really only supposed to be a trilogy, but I tend to be a wordy writer. I put, we always say in my writer's circle, there's 2 kinds of writers. There's the writer that puts everything into the stew pot, and then on revision, you have to, start cutting and pulling out carrots and turnips or whatever, pulling it out of the stew because there's just too much in there. Or then there's the writer that barely puts anything into the stew pot, and so then on revision they've got to add more details. Well, I'm an everything into the stew pot kind of writer. So
I hear you.
so I had to split this book up, because then it would be twice the thickness if I had it. So I split it up because I was like, that's a little too much like War and Peace, and really nobody wants to read War and Peace.
Yeah, right. My son actually loves reading books that are 600, 700, 800, 900 pages long. So
Wonderful.
yeah, he'll tell me to leave him alone so he can just go and read and get sucked into another world.
Yes, that's why I love reading. Is I've always been a huge reader. I read just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy a good story. And when I am into a story, I don't know if your son is like this, but I can tune everything else out.
Yes.
Now, some people can't, and that's fine. I respect that. But sometimes I will be sitting in the living room reading, and my husband is watching a movie, and I am completely oblivious to what is happening on the TV screen. And then he wants to try to talk to me about what is happening. And it's what? I have no idea what you're saying. He's like, it just happened. And I'm like, hey, yeah.
I hear
Got
you.
nothing.
Yeah. And they're both the same when they read. They will just be completely tuned out, and I'll say something and it may take me a few times to actually get them to register because they are just so sunk into it. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Yes.
And they love fantasy. This is really why I wanted to bring fantasy into the channel. That was what made my boys love reading so much. It was fantasy books. Yeah.
My son was, he's 11, so he's right at that age.
Yeah.
But when he was younger, he was very into nonfiction. And he has just within the last couple of years really kind of discovered fantasy and really enjoys fantasy. I mean, if it's got a dragon in it, he is all over it.
Yeah, I hear you. And gods. I remember
Yes.
we spent some years traveling the world before COVID, and I would be driving around Australia, and I would be dreaming in the world of writing books, and my kids would be in the back reading books. They read so many different collections as we traveled around Australia. That was their reading time. It was fantastic.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. I love
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you one more question as a takeaway for kids out there who are considering writing. For me, I found the editing process was probably the trickiest. What's a tip that you could give to them that may help them if they found the same situation?
With the editing process, we always
Yeah.
say, I have a writer friend of mine. She and I, we love the writing process.
Yes.
We love everything about it. But we always say the first draft is playtime.
Okay.
The real work begins when you start editing.
Yeah.
And that really is, because that's when you've got to be serious about it and you've got to shape things up. And it can get tricky, and you can feel completely bogged down by that process. I know with this last book, I spent a lot of time on the phone with her going, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to, this scene, there's a problem with this scene, but I don't know how to fix it. And there's just not enough ice cream in the freezer. So I would say, if you're doing some editing and you're finding it to be tricky, the best thing to do is to put it down and walk away. That's what I have found. Put it down, walk away. It's not going anywhere. And give yourself a couple of days to just do something else, because you need to relax. And if you are, wound up about getting it revised and getting it edited, you're not going to be able to, because you're going to block yourself. And that's just part of the process. So I would say, you get to the editing process and you run into a brick wall, you can call a friend like I do. If you've got another writer pal or somebody that understands what you're writing, and you can call and bounce some ideas off of them, or just put it down and walk away and come back to it. And a lot of times when you walk away from it for a day or two, when you come back to it, you'll be like, oh, I know how to do it. I got it. Yes. Because you've given yourself that little bit of a mental break. So, don't beat yourself up. You're not on a clock.
I applaud you for saying it like that, because I know that it can be the most, well, certainly for me, and I recognize that it was the most challenging writing process. And whenever we take that time away just to not think about it, there's something that happens in our subconscious that is still thinking about it, but our conscious life isn't. And that's really where you need to take that peace and rest in order to let where your really characters start to be born from make their way through, and that story can continue to flourish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. I mean, a lot of times, just going to sleep, sleeping through the night, because a lot of times I will wake up. Like I woke up this morning on another book that I'm working on, and I was like, oh, that's what I need to do, because I've been stuck for a week on this one part of the book, and I keep deleting and rewriting, and this morning it just kind of snapped. Mm-hmm. So sometimes just even sleeping, letting your mind relax, your mind will work it out while you sleep, while you dream, and a lot of times you can wake up and be like, what to do? I'm a genius again. Yay!
I have a little notepad next to my bed, and I can wake up in the middle of the night and write things down. I was actually having a chat with another writer friend just a couple of weeks ago, and she sent me through these things that she'd written in the middle of the night recently, and it was just a whole lot of gibberish mess. In the moment, it sounded very good in the middle of the night, but when she woke up, it wasn't anything that she could remember.
Right. It's like, what was I
thinking? Yeah. So I find, as a tip for me, what I tend to do is I'll actually just write the topic, the point as to why I'm writing it. It's part of a story that I'm already writing. So then when I do look at it the next time, I'm like, yes, I know what I was talking about.
Yes. And it's always good to, I actually have a notebook here where I've been jotting down notes for this other book that I'm working on. Younger writers out there too, don't be afraid to carry around a notebook or a journal and jot those ideas down in there. Don't try to wait until you get in front of a computer. I think a lot of people make that mistake, because you could be 2 hours from getting into the front of a computer, and by then it's gone. So don't be afraid to write it out.